Okay, folks, so I'm going to do a quick rundown on how to find the volume of prisms. Today I'm going to talk specifically about rectangular prisms, but for now I'm just going to talk about prisms in general. So a prism, which is a strange word, spelled funny, looks funny, is any three-dimensional shape that is made up of the same shape stacked on itself. So, for instance, if I drew a shape like this, that's a square stacked on top of itself. It's squares on squares on squares on squares. I can make layers of squares if I really wanted to. That's now 3 squares high. I could do that if I so chose. So a prism is just any three-dimensional shape that is made up of the same shape stacked on top of itself. This is a rectangular prism, better known as a box, because it's a rectangle that is in turn stacked on top of itself in layers of rectangles. How many rectangles exactly? Well, it's 4 inches or 4 versions of rectangles. This would be a triangular prism, because here's a triangle, and it's made up of slices of triangles, or stacks of triangles going. Now, how many? 16. That's how many is going up. It's called a triangular prism. This is called a circular prism, also called a cylinder. You probably see these in your pantry. They look like cans. It's a circle on the bottom, and then it's a series of circles stacked on top of itself, like so. How many circles? Well, 6 to be exact. If you ever had cranberry sauce at Thanksgiving that comes out of a can and you've sliced it in that really fun way, you're basically deconstructing a circular prism or a cylinder. Now, the big idea here is that the volume of these prisms, and this only works for prisms, can be found by doing base times height. That is the big idea here. And the base is whatever shape is on the bottom. In this case, that would be a rectangle. In this case, the bottom, we actually see it, is this nice pretty triangle. In this case, the base was this circle down here. And that's just multiplied by however many of those shapes are on top of each other, aka the height. This base multiplied by 4, because it's 4 rectangles high. This triangle multiplied by 16, because it's 16 triangles high. This circle would multiplied by 6 because it's 6 circles high. That's the height. So we're going to work on how to find those today. The one we're going to talk about today is the rectangular prism, which is by far the easiest one. Now, to do this, a couple key steps to remember. You want to identify the base first. Where is the bottom? The base is whatever shape, in a prism at least, the base is whatever shape is being repeated and stacked on top of itself over and over again. In this case, that's going to be this rectangle right here. And I already walked through the triangles and the circles. They don't always look like this, but in general, the prism shape's going to be the bottom. But like in this triangle example, sometimes they're not. It's just whatever shape is repeatedly stacked. In this case, this rectangle is repeatedly stacked. So identify the base. Check. Done. Identify the dimensions. By dimensions, I mean length, width, and height for rectangular prisms. So there's 3 dimensions. There's three different measurements. That will be different for triangles. It'll be different for circles. But for today and rectangular prisms, we're going to need the length, the width, and the height. So the length here is going to be 10. It is the longer of the 2 base measurements. It's going to be in inches. The width is going to be the shorter of the 2 base measurements. In this case, it's going to be 3 inches. And the height is how tall it is, how many of those rectangle bases are stacked. It's going to be 4 inches. Now, we can find the volume by multiplying. Multiplying what? Depends how we look at it. Volume can either be, as I said before, base times height, or for a rectangular prism, you can also do it by doing length times width times height. Why? Well, because the base, a rectangle here, don't know why it's not writing. The base is length times width. That rectangle at the bottom can be found by doing length times width, or 10 times 3. So I could do those either way. Let's go with the length times width times height option. The length was 10, the width was 3, the height was 4. I'm going to choose to do it this way. 10 times 3 is 30, times 4, this equals the volume, which is 120. Now, because it was inches times inches times inches, the unit will be, this was 2 inches put together. This is 1 inch for a total of 3 inches. So 120 cubic inches. There were 3 things multiplied together. And volume is always in cubic, whatever. Now, if I want to do the other version, base times height, this one's going to probably be better long run. You'll see why when we do triangles. The base here was the 10 times 3 to find this nice, beautiful rectangle, which was 30. Notice how it's the same as over here. The area of that bottom shape was 30 inches squared. The height was 4 inches for a total of 120 cubic inches, or inches to the 3rd power. Both ways get you the same answer. It shouldn't matter how you do it, as long as you're consistent. So again, just recap those steps. We identify the base. What is the bottom shape? We identify the dimensions. What is the length? What is the width? What is the height? And then we find the volume by multiplying. You want to do base times height? That's fine. If you want to do length times width times height, that's also fine. Your choice. Thanks for watching.